I'd like to call the meeting to order. It is now, according to the boss's watch, 11:06 a.m. and I'd like to take attendance and approve the minutes. We'll start with those on the phone. What does he want me to do with the RSVP list, which I didn't put in early, so apologies. So these are the folks that were supposed to call in. Your Carafano, are you with us?
Actually, he just told me he couldn't make it.
Okay.
So.
Assemblywoman Marge Markey?
Yes, I'm here.
Excellent, thank you. Elena Petroselli?
Here.
Okay. Michael Johnson?
I'm here, thanks.
Excellent. Senator Betty Little? Okay. I'm sure she'll probably join us. Okay. Oh, well, no, Patty's here. Yeah, Patty joined us. Okay. So, somebody just join us on the phone? Hello? Okay. So, welcome all. I think that's Senator Little. Betty, is that you? Maybe not. Okay. So we'll go to Albany, and if those in the room could go around the table, we can see you, and hopefully we can hear you. Jan, you want to get us started?
Sure. Did you recognize me, Pink? This is Jan Chesterton for the New York State Hospitality and Tourism Association and TAC member.
And Dan Fuller, TAC member. Good morning.
Sheree Swells with the Public Affairs Office, ESD.
Spike Kersey, TAC member.
Kevin Bronner, Business Council.
Okay, terrific. And now we'll go around the room. I will start with the Vice Chair of Tourism Advisory Council. I'm Christine Nicholas, but to my right is...
Thurman Thomas,
to my right.
Vice Chair.
Thanks.
Going this way. John Ernst, TAC member.
Hi, Nancy Elder with JetBlue.
Melanie Klausner with Ben Partners. Lynn LaRocca with the New York Racing Association.
Tom Mulroy, TAC member.
Eleanor Tatum, TAC member.
Tom Regan, Council's Office, ESD.
Lisa Soto, I Love New York.
Gavin Landry, I Love New York.
Rowena Sahuli, I Love New York.
Josette Montero, I Love New York, ESD.
Ross Levi, I Love New York.
Okay, and we have some guests in the room that are helping us.
Actually, I'm the dude guy.
Well, thank you for your help, dude guy.
Technical assistant.
Rob Mitchell, JetBlue.
Great.
Parents meeting here for JetBlue.
Patty Morris with Delta Airlines.
Madeline Grimes, Fort Freedom's Park.
Sally Menard, Fort Freedom's Park.
Randy Borscheit.
Guest. Fred.
Friend. Former TAC.
I Love New York.
Great. Okay, I see not everybody. Oh, Alexander Stanton just joined us from the Tourism Advisory Council. Welcome, Alex. So you should have received the minutes, and I'd like to have a motion to approve the minutes, unless there are any questions about the minutes. Motion? Okay, Tom's making the motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Who seconded? Tom. Any opposed? Okay. Thank you for your continued support, and thank you for being here today and in Albany through the video conferencing. This is the last meeting before summer, so today we're going to hear about the summer event strategy, and we also have a guest with us today from the New York Racing Authority who will talk specifically about the upcoming horse racing season in New York. We're also going to have an update from our subcommittees. So first, we'd like to welcome back Gavin Landry. He has been to China and back, so they say, and he has been with a lot of our tourism partners doing a great job spreading the message about New York State. So Gavin, if you can fill us in on your travels and also what you've been up to, we'd appreciate it moving forward.
It'd be my pleasure. Thank you, Christine. Before I begin, there's two things I'd like to say. They're of anecdotal nature. And one is Ying Su, who just introduced herself to you. She's been our intern for this whole entire semester. While she's going to NYU, I had the privilege of teaching her about a semester ago. And Ying was one of my finest students, and she came to me during the semester and said, you know, some of the stuff you've got going on in China isn't as good as it could be. And I thought, boy, isn't that a great, and of course she didn't say it that way. That's my way of saying it. She was very polite and very, you know, productive in her conversation with me. But I thought, wouldn't it be great to have Ying come and work with us? And I can tell you that I think was Markley on the phone?
Yes, I am.
I think Markley would attest to others team members that Ying has not only been a positive addition to the team, but also one of the most productive and positive interns. And I think is this your last day today? Okay, so thank you for your service, Ying. And we look forward to following her in her career. She's going to go to Las Vegas next and work in finance at the MGM. Yeah. So thank you, Ying, for that. And then I also wanted to just share with you, you know, there's a few things that happen during the course of the day that are better than others. And one is, this morning I walked in and I saw a handwritten envelope. And that means letter from a kid, right? So I love the letters from the kids. And so it says, State Office of Tourism, Dear Sir or Madam, I'm writing a state report on New York in my 5th grade class at Vine Hill School, which I think is in California. Please send me information you have on places of interest, the state's history, etc. I would appreciate any pamphlets, pictures, maps, or information that I can use in my report. Thank you very much for your help, Robbie Garcia. So this is the kind of stuff we get them, you know, in the office in Albany, get them down here. But we're going to send a lot of stuff to this kid. All right? That's what we're going to do because we like getting this. These are the nice things. We can send them swag. That's a great idea. Swag Central, absolutely.
Ambassador at the Vine School in California.
Exactly.
So, a couple of things to update you on the China sales mission. I was talking earlier to Tom and Eleanor, I believe. We had the good fortune of doing the first ever China sales mission. This is actually a little ahead. We're going to go back.
Oh, that's a different continent.
And I uploaded all the documents to your email, so no need to, first of all, take copious notes or really worry too much because this will be there for your reference. But some major highlights. This will follow on to the China Ready workshops we did last year. As you know, we opened the office in China last year in 4 cities. The first thing we did was to FAM the entire team that works for us, to bring them here, because they can't rep us if they haven't seen us. Then we created a China Ready workshops in conjunction with last year's tourism summit, and we brought in tour operators, trade and media from China, roughly 20 folks, to do China Ready workshops in 3 different cities in New York, and also to do B2Bs with the partners in those regions. They were very well attended. We talked about this before. So the next natural follow-on from that was for us to actually go to China on our first ever sales mission. Thank you, Christine, for your support of this mission, and to Governor Cuomo and ESD. The first ever I Love New York China sales mission. And I can tell you that it was very gratifying. It was also very grueling. I think I was in the air for over 40 hours in 5.5 days. You don't really fly to China in 5.5 days. I flew 3 times in country. We did 220 appointments in 3 cities, and as we're going through this, Lisa's just showing that's Beijing where we opened. And I also talked about 40 media. The format of this, our team in China is fantastic. If I could have them for every country, I would have them for every country. They just did an amazing job. We walked out, the car was there. I mean, it was absolutely immaculately planned. But the format was, in each city we had a general session in the morning, which was a plenary. About 100 people attended the session. I introduced folks at that session with an interpreter. We all had interpreters throughout. And then we broke into an appointment schedule. We did 11 rounds of appointments, and those that had a dark appointment would then go and do the plenary for the 100. So those that weren't doing appointments, that didn't qualify under the appointments and the speed dating, then were in the plenary and heard from all 11 in each city, which were travel agents, airlines, the whole gamut. And then we broke for lunch with a selected group, and then in the afternoon did it all over again. Had a new 100 come in for the plenary, a new 11 rounds, and then I met with the media at the end of the day. So we did that. We replicated that same thing in Beijing. We then flew the next morning to Shanghai. I met with a few folks that afternoon. We replicated the exact same thing in Shanghai the next day. Then flew to Guangzhou. Met with a few folks in the afternoon in Guangzhou. Then replicated the whole thing again in Guangzhou. Then flew Saturday 3 hours to Beijing and then 13 hours home, which was a long travel day to say the least. But filled with lots of gratitude for the effort and what we ended up doing. You can see some of the materials. As you know, the product that was online when we did the audit last year in China when we opened up the office there was zero New York State-based product. It was all New York City-based products. And now there are 21 products being offered by 12 tour operators, 9 of whom we brought here. So directly attributable to our efforts in talking with these folks. We did a product launch in December. I think Markley may have mentioned that at the last meeting. To introduce these products along 5 different themed itineraries, and that's what we talked about when we were on the trip. And I can tell you, when you have folks like the Val Knoblauchs of the world, who Christine knows, and she's been in the tourism industry. She's kind of a titan in the upstate tourism industry. We had the Wild Walk, which is a new attraction that's going to open in the Adirondacks on July 4th. This is a fusion walk through the Adirondacks where you actually go, I don't know, Russ, how long it is. Is it a mile or more?
It's not that it's that long, but it's the height that makes it exciting.
Right.
You're literally walking over the forest.
It's at the Wild Center.
Right.
It's at the Wild Center, and then there's a net you can kind of lay on. It makes you feel like you're a spider laying on the net in the woods. They were on this trip and felt incredibly good about the conversations that they had with the Chinese tour operators. So we have to continue this. We met with our airline partners in each city. We have to continue. This is a follow-on from the governor's support for Global New York, the support at Summit for these initiatives, expanding our global reach. And the only way to compete for this market, which everyone wants, and by the way, Fred Dixon at the NYC Company annual meeting, he said, you know what, everybody's going after my business, and he's right. Everybody is trying to take down the city. So our job is multifold, not just to help the state, but also to help the city and go after the global share of travel in this market. And that's what we did when we were in China. So this is just some of the earned media. The media was very interested in this. They really thought it was great. They thought it was a fantastic show of support for the importance of the Chinese travel market, that I Love New York and that the state would be there on this mission, which is something that had not occurred. And I think many of you know that the governor has announced that sometime in the course of the next months or coming years that he's going to do a China sales mission. And we hope to help him with that and kind of make sure there's a tourism or touristic aspect to that trip. So any questions on China before I move on? Alexandra?
Gavin, did you find that in the course of the appointments, this was new information for the folks? Did you find that your team was dispelling myths? What is the general sense from the appointments? You can give some feedback.
Boy, that is such a good question. I would tell you the learnings, the things that surprised me, are the fact that there's a new generation of Chinese travelers that are going to self-drive. They're not doing mom and dad's vacation. They're not going to do Boston, Washington, New York and out, or they're not going to do New York and California out. They actually want to get deeper immersed. They want to see more. They want to drive themselves, and that's a change. It's a big change. It's more millennial driven, so it's sort of leading edge stuff. The big challenge we have is that for instance in Shanghai, I think, and Ying can help me with this, but the easiest thing to do is to sell the same thing again and again and again, because there's such a volume of demand coming to these operators that that's all they have to do. And so our conversation that we're having with them is, you realize that when you drive to Boston, that you're driving right by the Culinary Institute of America, training the best chefs of the world. You don't have to add a day for that. You can just make that part of your itinerary. And the conversations that we're having with them are about kind of giving more authentic and more unique, and then finding that space and making that your differentiator, because everybody else is selling cookie cutter, right? So that's what we're pitching them on. That's what we're selling them on. And I think we had really good reception to that. Shanghai might be the exception, where it's more of a kind of an older travel market, and the travel agents were thinking about certain assets, not necessarily changing days, and finding ways to come up through the Finger Lakes into Niagara Falls as opposed to coming up through Pennsylvania, to get into Niagara Falls, that sort of thing. But good conversations, and all in all, the response to it was, they didn't have to show up, number one, they didn't have to do the appointments, number two, and they don't have to carry the product, which our goal is, once we have the content and the product online, is then to do the B2C. So if in 2 years I'm sitting here and telling you about product and content, you should tell me, get out of Dodge. I should be doing direct B2C to create demand for that product. And now we're working with lots of our airline partners, and hoping to develop even more insight and intelligence about the originators and the folks that are working with these these folks. China's the one everybody is hot and going after. So I hope that helps. Does that answer? Okay, absolutely. Any other questions on the China trip? By the way, any TAC member is welcome to join on any of these trips. We'd love to have a seatmate that's somebody I know on these, but also to have somebody to share the misery when it's such a long flight. But anyway, so that was China. Now we'll move on to Australia. Much like we did with China, we opened an office in Australia, I think you know, in January. Australia, last year we saw 700,000 Australians come to New York State. Now, ironically, the Australians have gotten here without much help from us. They've really kind of found their own way because we did an audit of product again, and guess what? Zero upstate product in the Australian travel market. So we're back in the soup again where we have to build the content, we have to build the relationships, we have to build the product, we have to get the media involved. And so we've built this tourism advisory board that all of you know we've been building. It's about 20 folks over in Australia that wanted to be part of this group. And now they're here. They actually arrived on Monday. They came to New York on Monday. They started in Long Island. They're working their way. You can see through the agenda, you know, we let a lot of our in-market suppliers tell us where the best spots are and who's most receptive to this travel market and so on and so forth. And then tonight, Tom Regan and I will be driving up to Albany together, and tomorrow morning we'll welcome the group at the Capitol to open up our Australia Ready workshop. We have an expert on Australia kind of travel behaviors that's going to be presenting. There's a B2B with the airlines and the tour operators that are with us. And we're FAMing our own team. Those that have not FAMmed us yet, that are part of the reps, are also on this tour. So we've got them in 3 cities, Buffalo, Syracuse, and Albany, the Australia Readies. And then our hope is from there that we'll see the same thing, that we'll start to see product come online. You know, it's funny because the other day somebody said to me, why Australia Ready? It's, you know, they speak, you know, kind of English, right? And it's because there are certain travel behaviors and there's certain distribution channels and so on and so forth. For instance, our good friend Tom Travers, right? He's got the Beacon Hotel, and he's got kitchenettes in most of his rooms at the Beacon Hotel. Guess who number one of his number one source market is international? Australia. They like kitchenettes because they're used to traveling with that, you know, kind of thing as part of their experience. They're intrepid. They have different behaviors, and I'm actually learning. Lisa asked me a great question. She said, what's the favorite food of Australians when they travel? I said, I don't know. I'm hoping I learn on the Australia Ready workshop. So maybe shrimp on the Barbie, but that would be kind of cliche. So, but that's what we're doing with the Australia folks. And again, a lot of really great support out there for this. This is yet another initiative that came from, this actually came from Tourism Summit in 2014. Governor announced that we're going to expand our reach even further. It made logical sense for us to go to Australia because of the visitor volume. They're now number 4, and like I said, they've found their way. They've found their way to the Hudson Valley. They've found their way out to the western part of the state. We just need to help them find their way to the rest of New York State, and we plan to do that. So, any questions on Australia before I move on?
Can I go back to China for 1
Sure,
second?
yeah.
If I could? Any thinking around there's so many real estate buying trips to New York City from Chinese, and that, you know, I experienced them on some levels personally, but there's a lot coming out of Shanghai, which is
Yep.
not going to surprise you from
Yep.
what you heard.
Yep.
I wonder if it's not worth having some conversations, or at least having the team in China have some conversations with the Chinese offices of the American real estate agencies that are facilitating all these trips. Because some of them, for example, I know, because I had a group in town a few weeks ago, business people that then all of a sudden wanted real estate, and all of a sudden they're looking for houses in Long Island.
Yeah.
And then I got asked about the Hamptons, or I was asked about Westchester. And there's been, I think, a seeding of the Chinese real estate interest to the city market, and I'm not sure that's entirely correct. I'm not sure it's entirely wrong, but it might be worth at least a conversation with
idea.
the team in country.
That's a great idea. Yeah, and there are many developments that are being discussed. One is in the Catskills called China City, and I don't know what stage of development this is. Tom, you may know whether that's really in the pipeline or just kind of conceptual. There's other folks like the Wanda Group who own a number of theaters and whatnot that are looking heavily at the western part of New York State. So that's lots of really interesting conversation that's going on already. So I will do that. I've made that known. I will definitely touch base. Randy, did you have a question?
No, I put this in a little out of left field, forgive me, but it's about branding. We have a brand. I recently talked to John Dyson about the origins of I Love New York. As my experience, and I suspect many of you have the same experience, if you're in Naples, Italy, or Buenos Aires, you see I love fill in the blank. T-shirts and bags and all kinds of things. So when you go to China, when you go to Australia, is there a way to, isn't so much a matter of laying claim to the original brand, but making it seem powerful, authentic, and not diluted by imitation?
You know, you think that's out of left field, but we actually had a conversation yesterday with a group called Brand Sense that we just hired to be our licensing agent. They unseated the incumbent that was in place for 20 years, and we had that exact conversation. So for those that don't know, the I Heart Anything Else, we don't own, but if you take out the heart, that's where we get a little upset. So we go after, you know, the folks that we call infringements. Rowena's, you know, taking pictures all the time and caught Jägermeister with a, you know, 20-story building with, Stag, whatever, New York. But no, that's a great idea. And what we're trying to do with the licensing, you know, from this point forward, our strategy is to make it not logo-driven so much as it is to kind of respond to what's special and surprising and delightful about New York State. So, for instance, instead of it being just a logo on a T-shirt, imagine that you go into some, you know, name the retailer, Cabela's or Bass or whatever, and there's a tent and it's mood lit, and you have kind of ambient sounds of crickets and forest and so on and so forth, and then you've got a line of tents, that's the Adirondack line of tents or something, with our logo and a hang tag. So it's a different approach to licensing. We've been very, you know, in the past kind of souvenir modeled and souvenir oriented because everybody wants those souvenirs, and we're not going to go away from that. But to your point, I think particularly in the international markets, we have the opportunity to kind of define the brand more than we may even have the opportunity domestically to define the brand. It's a good question. It's not out of left field at all. Yeah.
Okay.
Any other thoughts on Australia? Last two pieces of mine, I'm going to ask my teammates to help me out with. As you know, it was a very busy year, both from a consumer-facing and an industry-facing. But we had a number of events that we did in the first quarter. Ross and I call it the Itchy and Scratchy Show. Ross probably doesn't like that, but Ross and I do a lot of engagements together because I love to co-present with Ross, and we do a lot of great work on that level. We did a couple things that I did not do with Ross that I wanted to mention, then I'll turn it over to Ross to talk about. We had our media night. Christine headed up our media night at the Automobile Museum, which was great. I think we had 50 or 60 media. It was a cold night, and you may have quelled a few of the folks that would have come otherwise. But it was all about Ride the Roadscapes, and it was very well themed and very well executed. A neat spot. It's our strategy for our media nights is to go to unique locations that are hopefully easy to get to, and that would be desirable for media, so that would actually be, they'd want to go there, not just a place to, not a ballroom in a hotel or something like that. Not that they're not interested, but. And then I spoke with Jan. Jan's in the room there. Jan invited me to open up her breakfast. I bored the crap out of everybody at 8 o'clock in the morning on the opening day of her session up at the Sagamore. But that was great because it gave us an opportunity to update more of our stakeholders and folks that were part of that. And then one of my dear friends, Cindy Holloway, got recognized as Tourism Executive of the Year at that event. It's well deserving. So, and then Ross, we did a few others.
Yeah, a few others. The New York State Tourism Industry Association, the STIA, their first year as a combined organization of two other organizations, had their first statewide Empire State Tourism Conference, of which we're the co-hosts. We did Itchy and Scratchy, and we haven't told who's itchy and who's scratchy yet, but it was down at the Desmond in Albany, April 27th to the 29th. We were able to do that update on Isle of New York, and then there was also involvement in other workshops. I was part of one on segment tourism with someone else talking about the female market and me talking about LGBT, and then Kelly Baccarizzo from our Albany office, who administers Market New York, talked about that, which, as you can imagine, the funding opportunity was of great interest to the industry, and sort of she was part of a panel talking about funding opportunity. So that was a really great event. Hundreds of people were there over 3 days. We also, Gavin and I attended the Museum Association of New York's conference, which they've had a real growth over the last year or so as well, having hired their first executive director, paid executive director. And for the very first time, they held their conference at a museum. How interesting for the Museum Association, at the Corning Museum of Glass. And I'll tell you, if you ever want to have an event at a museum, the Corning Museum is incredible.
And even better.
To have your opening dinner in their glass workshop, so you're sitting there and eating while they're making these amazing glass chalices and things was just amazing. And the substance was amazing as well. This is a really interesting group in that, from our perspective, I think we all know about museums and cultural institutions inherently part of. But many of these folks are single volunteers running historical societies out in a town somewhere, and they don't necessarily see the picture of tourism or are looking for help in how to reach people better. And that was the theme of the whole conference, was museums are big business. And so besides doing our update and the keynote that Gavin and I did, we put together a workshop called Tourism and Museums, a Perfect Partnership, in which we brought some TPAs and some museums and myself and talked to everybody. It was about 100 people in that room alone, talking about ways that they can do better in marketing to tourists. So that was a great event. And then one I did on my own, CMI, which is pretty much the preeminent national LGBT market research firm, used to have a day in New York City every year where they talked about marketing. This year they expanded to a week, LGBT week, and they had one day specifically on tourism and hospitality. They invited me to present on I Love New York LGBT as a case study in case others are thinking of doing that. So I presented there. It was held at the Google headquarters, which was kind of fun. The most fun thing was they got invited to ring the closing bell at NASDAQ, so I got to close the stock exchange with them and be part of that delegation. So.
Yeah, and you know, to a person that, I mean, Manny, I think, had 400 folks that attended the plenary that we did. It just really underscores, it's showing the work that the governor has supported, that Christina Thurman has supported, that you all have supported as the TAC. The grassroots stuff, you know, that has been sort of missing from the conversation for a long time, that people really, really appreciate. I mean, folks appreciate ads on TV. They appreciate other things like that, but one of the things they really appreciate is knowing that you've got a fully integrated plan and that you're working with them, that you're accessible to them, and that's what we get when we go out to these industry events. So it's really been quite a pleasure. Any questions on that before we move on? Somebody in Albany, I think? No? All right. And then lastly on my agenda, I just wanted to bring up something that was particularly gratifying, and I have to thank Eleanor for this. Eleanor and I started talking, maybe January, I'm not even sure when it was, about ways that we can build our outreach and also just kind of smartly start to develop new potential tourists, you know, sort of thinking of the lifetime value of a customer, right? You intercept them early and you turn them into a skier or a skater or a bobsledder or whatever it is. And so one of the first initiatives there was for us to work with a group called the Eagle Academy, and Eleanor helped us put this together. But I'd like Mark Lee, who actually was firsthand kind of helping us out with this. Mark Lee, if you're on the phone, if you would speak to this, and Eleanor, if you have anything you'd like to add, please feel free. But Mark Lee, would you please let them know what we did?
Yeah, well, some research was done years ago on the zip codes of the majority of people who are in prisons in New York State, and they found 5 zip codes. And as a result of that, Eagle Academy was created for kids who are at risk. And in a nutshell, as a result of Eleanor's initiative and Gavin's discussion about her thoughts and so on, we were able to arrange at the beginning of April for a bus load of Eagle Academy students and their teachers and their parents and some of their siblings to go to Hunter Mountain to learn to ski for a day. This is all an outcome of the enthusiastic response from Scott of the Ski Areas Association of New York. And they had an absolutely wonderful time. 99% of them had never skied before. Not only skiing, but doing things together as a family. I mean, one of them shared that, you know, the greatest thing that they can do together when she can find the money is take them to Dave & Buster's. And there she was skiing. I never imagined that they could be skiing. So this all sort of opened the eyes of the kids and the families to the possibilities of enjoying these assets of New York State that we promote. And Eleanor can tell you about the essay competition that's going to be developed as a result of that as well. But we intend to continue working with kids like this and places like this to expose New York State more to minorities. Eleanor?
Yeah. Thank you, Markley. Yeah. I love New York and Markley. It was great. Probably go to the Eagle Academy, and they were so pleased with it. The parents got up to the ski mountain. they were given disease too, and they didn't expect to be able to dose kids. And so it was really a wonderful experience for them. The mountain was really, really generous. Eagle Academy was just so excited. You know, they provided the bus, Eagle Academy provided the bus, New York State, and the ski mountains provided everything else, lunch, equipment, and lessons. And it was really something that Eagle was really interested in continuing and trying to figure out a way to get more of their students involved. Mark just also alluded to an essay contest that we're starting to work on. We haven't gotten anywhere yet, but we're going slowly. But it's an essay contest for kids in New York City public schools. And maybe we're just, I don't know, maybe just saying Eagle at this point. Details are not done yet. But it's about, the essays are going to be about their summer wishes, things that they've never done and want to do, or their favorite summer activities. And their rewards for this essay contest are experience. So the first is from each grade. Maybe you'll get, you know, a overnight championship, or fishing on the Long Island Sound, or going up to Bridgetown to the Baseball Hall of Fame. Or even going to baseball. You know, as you know, we've heard, you know, a lot of these kids don't have these experiences, especially not as a family. And that's really one of the things that we want to focus on, is building this big experience, not just for a kid at school, but for them and their entire family to be able to do this. So we're working on that right now, and hopefully we'll actually be able to get it done for this year.
It's great. It's really rewarding. And I'll add as a parent that I'll note here that Markley Wilson, who, as you know, has been our international marketing director for 17 years now. I've known him the entire time, and I had the pleasure of him for 3. He just got a lifetime tourism award from the Barbados Tourism Organization, because Markley is a Barbadian who ran Barbados Tourism and was instrumental in the creation of the Caribbean Tourism Organization, which is also a very important part of the whole Caribbean tourism now. So very well deserved, and we were very happy to support our team in getting that award a couple of weeks ago. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Gavin, and congratulations, Martha. Thanks, Ellen, for the update. We have 3 subcommittees that are here today: sports and special events, aviation, and transportation. And the first we will hear is on hospitality and infrastructure, headed up by Jan Marie Chesterton.
Thank you, Christine. We're having a little bit of difficulty hearing what's going on in New York. You're kind of fading in and out. So can you hear me okay?
We can hear you fine. What we'll do from now on is make sure that whoever's speaking has the microphone close to them.
Okay. Okay, so if you can hear me, and I'm sure the people in the room here can hear me, so I'll begin. So thank you. First of all, I want to thank the committee members. Again, the members of the subcommittee are John Ernst, Tom Mulroy, Michael Johnson, and Dan Fuller, and certainly want to thank the Division of Tourism staff that's been so supportive. We've had 3 meetings since December, conference calls. We identified our goals and our objectives early on. We've had a lot of resource and a lot of comments coming in. Ross and myself were kind of the depository, if you will, of all the information that came together. We currently have a first draft. I will say it's 8 pages. Half of it is comments and materials, and the other half is some of the resources that we collected. We're nearly ready to pass it around to our subcommittee for culling down. I've asked Ross to do a little wordsmithing on it because it is pretty lengthy. But the bottom line is it's a draft advisory on the infrastructure and funding of New York State tourism, and our goal early on was to identify ways investors or developers could utilize funds, partnerships, and identify incentives or develop support from ESD. So I think we're in a good spot. I think the last time we talked, we thought maybe we wanted to have something ready for this meeting, but the more information we collected, the larger we found that our data and needed to be kind of cleaned up and culled down a little bit. So I will leave it that we are in a good position with draft round 1 of our advisory in the draft position. I hope possibly by the end of the month to get it back to the folks on the committee, and we can kind of get it into a manageable size, and then we'll also talk about when we think we can actually roll this out we're all taking the summer off because I know it's a busy time of year for the industry, so we'll probably circle back early fall. So that would be it, and I would take any questions or any specifics.
Okay. Well, we'll look forward to it, Jan, and anything we can do to help, please count on us. So that would move us along now to Thurman. Oh, no. Yeah. Oh, no, Gail. Gail, we're going to do transportation.
Okay. So after the last meeting, there was a lot of conversation at the last meeting, which was very diverse across each one of the regions. And so we had a call separately, myself, Christine, Ross, Patty, to say, you know, how do we tackle this? Because there were so many issues from so many different people that in the end, what we have done and that we're going to be passing out in the next couple of weeks is, I think each region is going to find that each region has their own challenges, and it's not going to be consistent across the board. And so to take a one-size-fits-all approach would mean that somebody's going to benefit and somebody still might not have, you know, something fixed that they need fixed within their region for aviation or transportation opportunities. And so we have put together a template that we are pre-populating some of the information ourselves, because it's just, you know, we can get the data across the board in terms of air service, seats served in each market, rail service along the way. But then once that part of the template is filled out, we're sending that template out to each of the different regions for them to finish filling out the template that's specific to their region and identify up to 3 gaps or infrastructure needs that we really think is necessary within their region. And then once we get all the templates back, we can look across the regions and see what similarities there might be, as well as, you know, where the gaps are that we might have to address separately, and then we can sit down and come up with prioritizing for each region what activities or what initiatives we need to address. And
they're coming up right now to fix whatever technical issues are going on.
Just hit the red button.
No.
I think it's trying to tell me I should just be done with my conversation and we can move on from there. Anyway, that's where we stand. So the template will go out in the next several weeks, and then you know, we'll give people a chance to fill it out. If and as well as when the templates are out, we will share each of the templates with everybody, because there are other people who might not be on the subcommittee that want to participate or at least take a look at where they think the infrastructures and the gaps are, and then we'll put together the report and sit down with the committee and come up with priorities and recommendations for each region of what to address.
Okay.
One of the things that's great about this, Christine, I just want to add this parenthetically, is these TAC committees, TAC committees are going to be so helpful to share these back with the regional councils. Start to think about what they want to put in for the CFA.
We lost the connection completely now. I think we lost our dial-in now.
Gavin, is if we start seeing, I mean, there might be learning lessons across the regions that we're not, that aren't noticeable, but that come out along the way, where somebody's challenge is somebody else's strength, where they've been able to address a problem that worked for them, and a similar sort of initiative might be able to work across the region. So I just think it's good to get full visibility across them.
All right, well, if we have any other suggestions on what you should be looking at, we'll certainly get that to you, Gail. And now, Thurman, we're all looking forward to hearing what the sports and...
It was quite a meeting.
Yep.
Quite a meeting. We met on May 5th at Madison Square Garden. It was hosted by Irene Baker. Is Irene there?
I think she's on the call.
No, she was going to be on the phone.
Oh, okay.
She wasn't able to join.
Okay. All right. Well, it was hosted by Irene Baker, and after the meeting, we got a tour of Madison Square Garden, which was very, very nice. These groups here have been working independently, bring strong events to their region. They want to have a strong, visible state presence at the shows, which all the other states have. They would like to form a statewide alliance and are looking for guidance and support. And they had representation from the Buffalo Sports Commission, Albany County CVB, Monroe County Sports Commission, Long Island and Sports Commission, New York and Company, Greater Binghamton, CVB, and the Syracuse CVB. They gave us an overview of the regional assets as well as some of the obstacles, which includes high bid fees for some of the locations. That was really one of the points that they really talked about the venue costs from a lot of these state university facilities are way higher than the other states that have these, way higher. And that's why I think we talked about the SUNY and why they don't have events, because the venue costs are too high. I mean, it would be a great thing for them to have these events at their schools to show off their schools. Yeah. And they just don't have it because of the cost. Yeah.
What's the reason for the cost? Is it the level of insurance for their market is that much higher? I mean, what is it, liability? What is labor?
Labor. It was labor. Yeah.
It also seemed like some of the other states have relationships that they've leveraged with their state universities and their college, their SUNY community type system. And it seems like with our relationship, maybe that's the opportunity to discover there. They just seem to have a way. What was the one that they just waived all labor fees, Thurman? Like somewhere in Virginia or something?
Somewhere in Virginia, yeah. They just waived everything. Yeah.
Oh, Towson.
Towson, yeah, that's what I was.
Probably lacrosse, if I had to guess.
Yeah. But with that also, the local governments are not working, with the sports commission fee. Their lack of funding for long-term planning. So, I mean, they do need a lot of help, and really it's when they go out again, I want to go with them. It's really a fun group to go out and see. And these are some of the things that they brought back, what other commissions are doing in other states. I mean, they really have a very good presence in what they're doing, and I mean, it's just remarkable. I didn't bring the Texas one because I'm from Texas. I pretty much knew what that one was all about. Yeah, everything is bigger and better in Texas. It's amazing what they do down there. But I think overall, we should probably select the TAC representative to speak with the SUNY counselor about what can be done, see if some changes can be done.
So have we, step on that, I'd be happy to, help with it, but maybe we need to just put together a letter to the chancellor.
Okay.
So that she, is it
she?
That's
Yeah, it's
right.
her. It's Nancy.
Right, Nancy.
Yeah.
So at least she's aware of the feedback that we're getting.
Okay.
Because I know that I've seen her at a number of economic development events, and she's been very supportive of startup, which of course is taking place on SUNY campuses. So, this is another opportunity for economic development. So I would think we'd have an active audience. Probably may not, maybe she's not aware of it. So let's at least, from this committee, make sure that we have the information letter give to her, and we'll make sure she gets it.
Thurman, is there a document that says the price for the SUNY arena is X, Illinois is this, California is Y? Because I think data, it's one thing to say you're more, but I don't think that resonates. Something that says, this is how much you're more by, and this is how much business they're getting, this is how much, so that really makes it stark.
There was a talk about that at the meeting about, I can't remember exactly how it went, where the bid went out as just say 20,000, and they ended up getting it for like 6 or 8.
Wow.
It was in a certain, I can't really, you remember, Gavin? I can't really remember. It was a talk about it, but some of them just pay it, and some of them will just.
But some of the bids, like
right in half.
The Ironman that Lake Placid's going after, international Ironman. They've got the longest running national. The bid fee for this, the host fee, $300,000. And you think about that for the Adirondacks, it's probably real money for anybody, but that's real money for the Adirondacks. Now, luckily, they've worked with the CFA, and they're getting some funding from the state to help with this. And now it's a matter of outcompeting. It's not just a bid fee. Now you got to outcompete everybody else that's in there. So these are the challenges.
But beyond bid fees, there should be able, if you want to call up and rent, fill in the blank, there is a cited rental fee, which is different from competing and bidding for, a $500,000 package. That should be easily discernible.
Right.
And
Just like we have with our hotels, you want to rent a banquet hall, there's a
How much is it?
booklet.
Right.
This is how much it
Exactly.
is.
I think
And,
the
and
data
it
for
has the
Zimper-
different quarters. It's going to be more money in the summertime. It's going to be, when you go to the
Weeknight
Otesaga,
versus weekend.
it costs this much in June, it costs this much in January, but it's all on paper.
Well, Therma did ask them to do an inventory of the state's assets. So that's a next step for the committee. It has to do, basically say by region, who's best suited for what are the facilities, what's in their wheelhouse, and then ultimately it sounds like cost is going to have to be something we really drill into.
I think cost is what we're really going to have to drill into. They're really looking forward to try to bring a lot of more sporting events to New York, which is huge. We talked about the Cooper Sound. Why not having another one of those? They have it 4 months. 4 months out of the year, and because only reason I say that because there are teams that get turned down. If you can find a spot where you can have 12 fields, you can bring 50 teams in. Because like I said, Cooperstown over the years have turned down tons of kids. They just won't let them apply. They just won't let them be there. But the one thing that I was really impressed about everybody that was there at the meeting was that, and Irene was supposed to be getting a list together for us, that what would be huge for the state of New York, I know it's touchy-feely or 50-50, but to try to bring the MMA here, they've talked about that for
Mixed martial arts.
Mixed martial arts, yeah. For
Oh.
number. Uh-oh.
Oh, yeah.
I know that would be a tough one, but we've been talking. At that meeting we talked about
Support it.
obviously we knew that it would bring in. It's something that other states have and don't have for obvious reasons.
Negotiating with the Senate. Never get
But besides that, everything went great. Our next steps were sent out to the committee and sports commission. We'll follow up from there.
Great. Any questions for
You.
and Betty? Okay. All right, well, good luck with that.
Thank you. Yeah. They threw me on the top, so I had to.
Yep. If anyone can get it done, I know you can. We do have a sporting event that takes place every year. A number of sporting events that take place, considering that it may not be a person competing, although the jockey is a person, but on top of a horse. But it is a huge industry for New York. Oops, do we want to do that first? We do. Want to go? We'll run sports. Why don't we?
Yeah, let's
why
do
don't we
that,
go to
yeah.
the Racing Authority if you're ready for us.
Sure,
and
no problem.
Get an idea of what's going on there.
Right, absolutely. Thank you, Christine, and thank you, members of the Tourism Advisory Council. I'm really happy to be here to be able to share some of the upcoming season here with the New York Racing Association. We run the thoroughbred racing circuit here in New York State at 3 iconic aqueducts, beautiful downtown New York, and we also run, obviously, the iconic Saratoga racecourse. So that's the summer place to be from mid-July through Labor Day. Thoroughbred racing, in case anybody isn't aware, is a very important industry in New York State. Its economic impact is over $2.1 billion and it equates to about 17,000 jobs. We just completed an update to the 2011 Saratoga County IDA study, and Saratoga alone generates $237 billion in economic impact to the state of New York, and that's plus 9% to the 2011 study. It also equates to almost 2,600 jobs, which is a 30% job growth since the 2011 study, and it's $14.2 million in tax revenue for the city, the county, and the state. So thoroughbred racing is a very, very huge industry here. We're entering our exciting season right now. I know that there were some slides in here, and Lisa's endeavoring to keep up with me, but I'm sorry, I'm one step ahead. I'm just giving a little bit of a preamble there. So we have 250 days of live racing that we run throughout the state of New York. We had 1.7 million people visit a New York track in 2014, and that was $2.5 billion in handle. We had 102,000 people alone at last year's Belmont Stakes, which was California Chrome's try for the Triple Crown. And that was also viewed by 20.6 million people on NBC. So hopefully after this weekend at Preakness, American Pharoah won the Kentucky Derby, we might have another. It's another Triple Crown race coming up in about 3 weeks here in New York State. So we look forward to Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. This year is the first year we're doing 3 days, June 4th through 6th, Thursday through Saturday. We have 17 stakes races. Those are the big races that the best horses in the country enter for, in layman's term. There's about $10 million in purse money that will be on the line. For the first time, we're doing some post-race concerts. We have OAR happening on Friday night. We have the Goo Goo Dolls that are part of our day on Saturday. We also are using the Jersey Boys from Broadway Musical and lots of things going on for Saturday. We're doing $5 million in transportation upgrades through the Long Island Railroad Association. We've had enhanced Wi-Fi. I'm sure some of you realize we had some glitches last year with 102,000 people that came to Belmont, but we recognize that. We worked really hard over the last year to make sure that that's not going to happen again. We also just announced last week that we're going to have attendance if it's obviously if it's a Triple Crown at 90,000, because the guest experience is most critical for us, and the safety of our guests and our equine athletes are obviously top notch. We also work really hard with Taste New York vendors, so they'll be there on the Friday of Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. This year, because we don't have enough going on, we're also partnering with our friends at the Jockey Club, and we're hosting the Pan American Racing Conference for the first time here in New York. So that's going to be taking place simultaneously with the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. We're getting over 300 people from South America that will be involved in roundtables regarding the thoroughbred industry, and we're also going to show them a good time here in New York. We're going to take them around. Obviously, they'll come to the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival. We're doing a boat cruise on Thursday night on the Cornucopia Majesty around New York, around the island here. We're going to do brunch at Tiffany's. So we've got a lot of things going on, working with local businesses here in New York. Obviously, the hotels are very happy with us because it's a big day. We've got a lot of people coming from out of state and a lot of people coming from out of the country as well to visit because of the Belmont Stakes. So that's just Belmont Stakes, and then we go to our Stars and Stripes Festival. We did this for the first time last year. We're just trying to highlight the international racing scene. Our new racing operations director has worked hard over the course of the last few years to try to get some of the finest horses in Europe to come over here. July 4th, we'll be having the International Racing Festival, 6 stakes races, 3.8 million persons. We're also going to have another concert that night. It won't be a really big band, but it will be enough. And anybody that bought a ticket to the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival is also going to get free admission to the Stars and Stripes as we try to build that. And hopefully that will end up being something very similar to a Belmont Stakes Racing Festival in the future. So another big event for July 4th. Then we just kick off, we go into Saratoga, which is the summer place to be. Everybody knows Saratoga, everybody, especially, even if you're not a fan of thoroughbred racing, you've heard Saratoga and you want to go to Saratoga. So we had almost 1 million people visit us last year for our meet there. We start on July 24th and we end on Labor Day, September 7th. Our key racing dates are Whitney Day, which is on Saturday, August 8th, and Travers Day on August 29th. Both of those will be broadcast on NBC as well. Doing special events every day, and we partner very well. We did this last year. We're going to continue this year with a lot of the Taste New York and New York vendors. So we have New York wines and cheeses on Thursday, New York craft beer and cider on Fridays, and we'll do Taste New York vendors on Sundays up there. We also have Fabulous Phillies Day, which is August 13th. That's our tribute to women in racing, and we also support breast cancer awareness. So that will be one thing that we do up in Saratoga. Whitney Day is just a little bit more details. 5 stakes races, over $2 million in purses. We'll have some, live entertainment, lots of fun happening on that day as well. And then the Travers Day, which is, obviously a really big race for some iconic well, that takes place on Saturday, August 29th. That day we'll have 7 stakes races, 6 million in purses, and a lot more fun. So that's Saratoga. And that's just a brief recap of what we're doing so far this year. And we've also, there's some other pages that I won't go through and bore you with, but we've done a lot to enhance our digital platforms. And we're working closely with Gavin and all the folks at the I Love New York campaign, because we really want to work on this partnership and, and further tourism here in the great state of New York. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, Lynn. I have a question. If the fact that you're capping the attendance this year at Belmont, we have a triple crown, would you consider, maybe you do it already and I'm just not aware of it, of allowing racing fans to watch the race lot, like on simulcast at Saratoga or at another venue?
We actually do that at Activa, Christine.
Okay.
And so we have a beautiful facility that we called Long Shots. It's a state-of-the-art sports bar that we're trying to really generate a lot more interest around. We put over $1 million as enhancements about a year ago, so we'll do live simulcast. We'll do simulcast. Saratoga's not really open and ready because it's just a little bit too cold for us to do that up there right now. But we'll really make use of Aqueduct for that here in the facility too. Yeah.
Great. Well, that's
Thank you.
Any other questions for
Yeah,
Lynn?
Christina, I recently met with a senior person of the US Today, USTA.
Okay.
And I didn't realize they were based in Westchester, but they generate over $700 million just for the 2 weeks at the US Open. And apparently that group has to reinvest that money and promote the sport around the country. They just did a venture outside of Disney, looking on Disney, for about $100 million to build a big youth training center down there. Someone donated land of 85 acres, which probably was virtually nothing, just sitting there. And they're putting that money back into the facility. So I don't know if New York, if they have that kind of money to invest, with some land, which we have, some all over the state. Why not,
reinvest it in
because
New
they
York.
did say they were looking for a Northeast venue as well for a youth training center, and they also get together with Gatorade and Wilson and all the groups, and they will put money in as well. But they're not. There's no shortage of money, it seems like, with the USTA, and if they're generating that kind of money in New York State, they certainly should be making some of that money in New York State.
Totally agree.
So, I don't know, Thurman or you or Christine or someone take the lead, maybe meet with.
I think we sent Thurman out there to go get money. What do you say?
Everyone, I think, again, money generated in New York State, so.
It should definitely, at least go to
That's
market.
annual.
Right.
And if they're going to put that kind of money in facilities and they're looking, we should be front and center on their list to find a place
Do you
to
think,
do it.
they're building a dome now.
Right.
Was that,
200 million.
so did some of that money go to?
Yeah, that went into that dome
Okay,
too.
because that'll help, because then it'll become a facility,
Right.
from what I understand, which will be year-round.
Well, they're going to
They
do that
can use
anyway,
it, yeah.
just so they can make more money. But New York
Right.
State, greatly benefit from that. But if they're generating that and putting that money at other states, why? And if they're looking to the Northeast for a youth training center and to spend $100+ million for 100 courts, and the place they're doing right outside of Disney in Orlando is incredible.
Yeah.
And it was just taking a little public-private partnership. Someone donated some land, they put in the money, and it's off and running. So.
Excellent suggestion. Thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, so we're going to pivot from sports to the summer. All right, so Lizette's going to give us an update on what I Love New York's plans are for this summer season. Okay. I really screwed you up there, Lisa.
You're fine.
Don't worry about it. So before we get into the actual plan for 2015, I just wanted to recap what we did in 2014. So what we accomplished, with the presence of 50 events across the state, which was very aggressive, if you will. We created a mobile visitor center, which we also refer to as our pod. And what we did there is we provided thousands of people with destination attraction recommendations via our personal recommendations. We collected 5,000 email addresses of people who want to hear from I Love New York. So we're building dialogues with more people in doing this. We bolster a realization that New York State has world-class attractions. A lot of times people forget all of the great stuff the state has to offer, so we help them sort of discover it or rediscover it. So I think that was something that, and being able to talk to people one-on-one, it really helps in the authentic, people believe in us if we're talking to them face-to-face. And we put a face to the Out of New York brand, again, making a striking impression to their cares. I think it's, people are in our advertisements or seeing us on air, but when we're there at a community event, they really feel the pride and they feel like we actually care. And so I think that it makes a difference for people in communities. So the results, so we successfully stimulated the intent to travel. 67% of the people who visited our booth got new ideas about places to go in New York State, and 67% are highly to plan a New York State getaway or recommend one to a friend. So I think that we succeeded with really high numbers in our mission of inspiring travel. And some key takeaways of what we learned. So larger events provided the opportunity for more visitor reach. So it's a numbers game. So the more people we can talk to, the more people will impact along the way. Staff impacted the quality of engagement and number of attractions and overall credibility of information. The content that we had to offer was really a key in selling destinations and selling attractions. And there was a higher interest in travel and in travel-related conversations at the start of the season. So how we're applying these learnings. So this year we're going to focus on fewer but larger events with very high attendance numbers. We're increasing our footprint and staffing at each event to maximize reach. We're training our staff to be experts in New York State travel. So we're actually doing, an in-room classroom session and then also taking the staff on a fam tour of New York State so that they're experiencing what they're talking about. We're going to customize the content by event. So if there's, an event that has a particular line of interest, we're going to customize all the content towards that. Heaving up on the schedule leading into summer and fall, and overall, we want to make it fun for visitors. So visitors are there to have a good time at these events. We want to make sure they have a good time at our activation. So here's the plan. So we talk a lot about consumer journeys in marketing, and we find our place in discovery. So there's awareness, consideration, discovery, intent. So we think that our mission is to inspire travel and get people to visit. And again, we New York State, and then in that, we're driving the next step in the funnel, which is travel. So our overall approach for our activation is we're calling it internally Find What You Love. So, we think that visitors sometimes need a little bit more than inspiration. They need direction. So we're creating an activation that helps them give people. Okay,
This never usually happens. I'm not sure if you can still. Can you guys still hear us? We lost you completely.
Are you there? Oh, hello.
We can hear you now.
Okay.
No, that's the woman market. That's not.
Oh no, wait, that's the phone. Sorry, I think we lost New York City. All right, they're aware they lost us.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you know, yeah, so.
They can't hear it either.
I don't think they can hear us right now.
Sure, you just say that you're walking us into a trap.
Yes, I am. That's what I do.
Got your number.
Do they have mobile unit scheduled throughout the summer? I mean, do they have
It's a tight schedule, yeah.
already scheduled?
I believe they have a plan for it.
Is there any way we can get a list of events and where it's going to be located? That would be- I'd like to see it, you know. I think it's a great idea, Jamie.
Yeah, we had it a couple of times last year. I saw it at Past Masters.
But that would be out every week.
No, not where you were fishing down where the actual, yeah. Yeah.
So this interactive thing that she's talking about, is this on the website? Is this the pod?
I think it's at the pod. They'll put it on the iPad and
At the pod?
Yeah, it's at the pod.
I see.
And we've been doing trivia on iPad at some of our other events, and if you get 80% or something, we're giving somebody a T-shirt.
Does the pod go out of state?
I don't believe it's been out of state yet. Last year was our first time with it. I'm not sure if they're opposed to it, but we don't do a lot of events out of state. We don't have a lot of
others events.
All right.
You know what I mean?
I know Ross has talked about with Pride going to like Massachusetts Pride or something like that.
I mean, I'm sure there's a certain. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's a certain protocol. Well, circle that, you know, maybe want to go to Denver, but.
Yeah. Like the Big E or something, you know.
Maybe just drive it down the thruway.
It is. It's like a giant billboard.
It's like the
that
Meyer Wiener. Everybody sees that coming.
They should be out every day almost. I know,
Yeah.
we probably have to.
I think we have the people that we bought it from. I think actually are the ones that have to drive it. GMR, one of our. I don't know if our staff are allowed to drive it.
Get your CD out.
Don't laugh. When I retire, I wanted to. Even before I retired, I wanted to be a truck driver. I love to drive.
We support you.
I just don't like other people on the roads with me. I want the road to myself.
No, I'm just thinking, you know, and also other in-state, not necessarily events, but
in New York State. So I think that in the respect of the events that we attend, we want as many of those names as possible. With regards to acquiring names from a different event, a different avenue, I think that the only concern is there are legal ramifications. Like you actually have to sign up to receive our newsletter, so that you can't legally. People have to want to receive it, otherwise it's junk mail.
Answer your question. Give the New York State agent, I would think that email addresses acquired by other state agencies could, at a minimum, all receive an email asking if they would like to receive New York emails.
That's a question for the council right there.
Agency.
You could give them the opportunity to opt in.
That's it. And that would give you, because by the way, public school teachers, they're off for summer. This is not thousands of dollars per trip. I mean, one could imagine, State Department of Ed, Parks Department, there are people who have, I remember, you and I mean, Tom was here when I was chief of staff, so we lived through some of this. And we actually dealt with some of these regs. One could email.
But, so you're talking about a New York State employee or
No.
anybody who does business with this?
What I'm talking about is the Parks Department has a swath of emails they have captured folks to go to parks.
Oh, so but that's a tourism sort of.
Right, but
Email.
I wouldn't assume that we have the emails that the Parks Department is sitting on, or,
Right.
let's say, public school teachers and those emails from the State Department of Ed.
DC.
Why, there's no reason they couldn't get an email asking if they want to opt in. They're also off for the summer. I mean, there could be.
DMV maybe. DMV would be a huge fraud.
That's a huge
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, list acquisition is often expensive. We have
Right.
these within the state
Right,
rubric.
sure.
Yeah, we should.
Let's look at it.
I made a note. Yeah, that's very good.
This is why you come to these meetings, Tom.
The occasional.
It's a pleasure.
It's always
a pleasure.
I'm glad you're here.
The other thing that I was thinking, those sample itineraries, have you thought about finding another way to distribute them? Like, I'm thinking for the agencies, for the travel agencies, who might not necessarily be front of mind, but as we continue to visit them, or as they are booking something else, even if it's business travel here, but they're not going to take the time to give a suggested itinerary or have you thought about this unless it's right in front of them. And so if a way to provide collateral or even, soft copy digitally to some of the big travel, the big agencies, and we can help you with that. I would recommend taking those sample itineraries and just making it easier for the bookers to be able to provide information. Yeah. Okay.
Just, Christine, if I can, kudos to Lizette and Ken and Patrick. This event, and we really built it on the fly, because we started with the Adirondack Challenge in 2013, and then we set up on a whole group of events that Christine and everyone else participated in. Lizette has now put this strategy in place that I think now takes what is the best part of the events plan relative to the ways that the events plan can be exploited for all kinds of purposes, but also to make it work for us on a tourism grassroots level. So I commend her. The activation's really interesting, something I'd want to do if I went to these events. And it's still a stretch. She said we cut it down, but you're still doing 20 or 30 events, and there's still several government events included, right? So just wanted to say thanks to a teammate.
Thank you, guys. We certainly appreciate all the work that you do, Lizette and Rowena and the whole team, Lisa. Just a reminder, since this is our last meeting before we break for the summer, I know last year you guys have been helpful in making sure TAC is aware of the various events that I Love New York supports, whether it's Saratoga or whether it's the horse show in Central Park or some of the tasting events. If we can get that email out sooner rather than later, as people are starting to plan their summer vacations, it would be terrific if they knew about the balloon events in Binghamton or whatever. So as they're driving around, they'll know about them. So can we try and put a deadline on that of maybe, June, 20th or so to get that out?
For the whole list, right?
That would be,
What I sent, I was sending them like on Wednesday or Thursday, like events a weekend.
yeah, that was good.
You're still, okay.
But if you give us the whole thing,
And then I'll keep
and then the reminder, yeah.
Weekend,
And-
especially if you've got kids, let's do it.
As TAC members, how do we participate in those things? Is it helpful for us to be there as well? And, what kind of interaction do you want us to have with it? Or do you just want us to come and experience it?
We definitely want you to come to experience as much as you can because you are the spokespersons for tourism, very beneficial. But I think if you know in advance that you are able to attend something where we have a booth or we have a speaking role or we have press there, it would be very helpful, I think, to, be part of that. And that's where, it is important to know in advance what we're doing.
And Christine, I'd love to offer up, at the New York Racing Association, we have an email list. We have probably about 125,000 people on it, and we send out emails regularly about Saratoga. We'll be sending out a plethora of them in the next coming weeks because of the Belmont Stakes and all the people that bought tickets through Ticketmaster, et cetera. I'd be happy to put banners or links or anything on the bottom of those emails about what else you could do while you're visiting the great state of New York for these things. So
That's perfect.
we just want to be able to work back
fantastic.
and forth. So, because I know you help us out, and
So it's growth by 50% right there.
In inclusion, like I can work with Gavin and and Lizette here. So.
That's great.
Christine, if you've got specific ideas for things we can do at a local event,
Right.
Reach out, because, whether you need somebody to help in a booth or whatever it
Right.
is to attract press, we can try to do that.
That would be terrific. Thank you.
One of the other things I neglected to mention is most of these events are all happening on the weekends,
Right.
obviously. So what we're doing, though, is to make the most use of the pod itself, is we're bringing it down to New York City during the week. We're trying to find spots for it in public locations. So right now we're working with the Parks Department, and we're looking at farmers markets and places where there's a wide open space. We're talking to some of the bids as well. So it's just another use for it and to try to push that downstate market.
Great. Does anybody else have any other summer events that we should be aware of, or anything going on? Anybody from Albany or on the phone that wants to share anything?
Dan, is your attraction open yet? The rope pull around the lake for?
Hopefully it's going to be open mid-June, mid to the end of June, but we'll have a date for you soon.
Please let us know. That's really exciting. You can water ski, and they pull you. So what is the one of the?
Flying, right?
No, you're actually water skiing. You're water skiing or wakeboarding. Dan, tell us about the attraction.
Yes, right now we're in the build, and we had the team from Germany that arrived over the weekend, and they're working on it right now and hope to have it completed in about 4 weeks. But it's a 2-cable system that's on Muir Lake, which is right in front of the water park. And it's the first installation in New York State and the first in the Northeast. There's only 14 of them in the country, although it's very popular in Europe. And there's a small 2-tower system, which is for beginners to learn how to water ski, wakeboard, or kneeboard. And then the 5-tower system goes around the entire perimeter of the lake, which is about 26 acres. And there they're able to maneuver through jumps and different rails and features and so forth as they become more accomplished, just like they would in a snowboard park on the mountain in the wintertime. So we're very excited about it. It brings an activity that really to a huge population now that really never had access before, because prior you had to either own a boat or have a cottage on the lake in order to enjoy it. And hopefully towards the end of June we'll have it ready to go.
That's great.
Right.
Let us know.
Okay. Well, if everybody is all set.
I actually have one question.
Eleanor?
The Amtrak.
Oh, yes.
Crash yesterday. Are we doing anything from New York to say that the rails are safe?
I defer to the transportation commissioner.
Right now, I think we're just waiting to see what caused it, right? And so I think it's not that they're not safe,
right,
but I think before anybody says anything, let's figure out what we have to address first. You know, on our side, I know we're looking at seeing if we can put some extra lift in the market. I don't know if we need it or not. Quite frankly, we want to see where demand is, but we know for the rest of this week the rail is going to be out. So,
yeah. I know there was an event scheduled right after this today about promoting taking the train to the game, and we had a conference call at 6 this morning and decided it would not be in the best interest of what was going on to bring out Mr. Met and cheerleaders from the Cosmos and everything else to be at Penn Station. So we thought, let's postpone that event and wait and see. But I think when the time is right, it would probably be best for Prendergast and the head of Amtrak to make those comments. And then, providing that it will be a positive comment, we will then share it with through our channels.
I would assume that the MTA, I mean, the Metro North and the kind of the local heads here would have important thoughts on that as well.
Yeah, we've done a lot to build up taking the train. And I know Senator Little is, if you're still on the line, are you with us, Betty? You know, there's no greater advocate for train travel in Albany than Betty Little. I mean, she's just been there, and you've worked hard on getting those bikes on the train, so it's something that we're looking at and really hoping for the best. So, any other comments? All right, I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Alexandra, second. Eleanor, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, have a very good summer.